really appreciate your presence here at For the Youth, by the Youth, a webinar hosted by MenteeMeet. Today, we wish to set up an interactive and exciting youth-to-youth talk with our fellow juniors to allow an exchange of ideas, share our concerns as IG students and understand yours, and suggest tips and tricks that assured us a smoother journey through IGCSE. So what is MenteeMeet? Remember that time when you called up your seniors to ask them about their subject choices? Or that time you casually asked your older peers about how they managed to ace an exam? Or that time they shared a personal experience to help you out with your choices? Well, MenteeMeet is exactly that. A peer mentoring community that helps you learn, share, and interact with the people who've been there and done that. I, Vriti Muni of grade 11, initially created MenteeMeet as a CAS and GNSR initiative, but eventually realized that it is much more than that. It's a program that unites young individuals and guides them with their academic and personal decisions, right from subject and university choices to overcoming exam stress or aiding with extracurricular guidance. MenteeMeet is there for you no matter what. Let's get started with today's event. This is a slide of everything we will be covering in today's webinar. If you have any questions at any point in time, feel free to post them in the Q&A section and we will address them towards the end of the event. Here's a fun fact. When we were in IGCSE, we never really made notes. And the ones we did make used to end up flying as paper planes all around the classroom. Nevertheless, when the exams were right around the corner, we realized how important concise notes were. To ensure that you don't have to rush through your note-taking process, Trisha Deria will now share with us the little things that made a huge difference in relation with note-taking.
Good evening, everybody. So to start off with, IGCSE is like really easy if you stay prepared from the start. And it's basically like a checkpoint, but the next level. And IGCSE is extremely structured. And that's why note taking is super important. But yeah, stay relaxed and keep your mind fresh. And also pay attention in class, which is very important. And like I said, note taking is a crucial part of learning, and it'll help you reduce the need for being buried in your textbooks. So firstly, learning is not a one-time event or action. It's something that happens like over a period of time, right? So it's a process. It happens over a period of time, and eventually when you reflect and think deeper, the concepts become more clear and stronger. So there are a lot of factors affecting your learning, and one of the most important ones is note taking. So here are some of the benefits of note taking if it's done efficiently. So it keeps your thoughts structured, and that's extremely useful when it comes to a structured curriculum like IGCSE. Learning and recollecting concepts is easier. Yeah. Just give me a second, sorry. Yeah, it's easier when you have an effective note-taking method. And I'll talk about that a little more in detail later. And since you remember everything in much more depth and detail, the need for last-minute revision drastically drops. And this leads to a lesser last-minute stress. Revising before an exam or simply rehearsing concepts becomes easier since you don't have to go through your entire textbook all over again. And this fifth point is actually often overlooked. And when you're actually taking notes in class, it actually keeps you involved and focused on what the teacher is doing. So let's get started with note taking. So firstly, everybody is different. Everybody is unique. And everybody has a different style of note taking. For example, there's the outline method, and then there's the boxing method. But I'm not going to like delve deeper into those because you all probably know more about them than I do. So I try to imagine note taking as a burger where the different ingredients like the cheese, etc., are elements from different methods and styles that you pick and choose to make your own unique style. So I'm going to talk about my note taking style, and hopefully you all find some nice ingredients there to cook your own burger. You can call it whatever you want. I just had to come up with a name. So it's divided into three parts. The making notes, the 14-day revision rule, and the posters. So let's start with making notes. I'm a huge fan of the words by Frank Oppenheimer, which quotes, the best way to learn is to teach. And that really influences the main goal for note taking, which is to create a master guide in the end to teach yourself in the future when you forget. And here's how to go about it. So, first thing, always keep a book and pen handy. Always. If you have color pens, there's nothing better than that. Uh, so now you've got the book and pens. So use it. Like always take notes. Make it a habit when the teacher's talking. Just constantly doodle or like make your notes. Uh, your notebook should be like a playground. It's not a prison where you follow the margins. So you should be able to use all sorts of diagrams, mind maps, etc. And as per your needs and as per your wants. Uh, IGCSE really values keywords and phrases. So if you're able to like color code your keywords and phrases, you'll be able to remember it much easier. If you're artistic, take advantage of it. It will make remembering more easier as you will subconsciously link key terms or key concepts with illustrations or stories. You don't need to be an artist to draw arrows, right? They're super easy and quick, and they should become a habit. The teachers at DBS really put in a lot of hard work into planning their lesson and the flow of how they're going to teach something. So with arrows, you can actually capitalize on that, and you can actually reconstruct and capture the way the classroom was conducted. Uh, Over here, you can see the effect of arrows on the notes. And even though you didn't attend this class, you can actually see how the class progressed. So add humor, uh, lame or silly, add your jokes. Trust me, this will help you remember. And over a period of time, you'll start to recollect concepts and topics with jokes. And if you doodle like a mini comic with a joke, it's even better. And also, it won't bore your future self when you're revising. Uh, so another step towards making the master guide is to include solved examples. So it's similar to what's already there in the textbook, but it's personalized just for you and it's made by you, so you understand it better. Then make it your diary. So annotate or make comments in the book whenever and wherever you feel like. Just talk to yourself, like picture yourself teaching the future you. So imagine that you're teaching yourself 9 months down the line or something like that. And whatever you're just thinking, just put it down, like make these annotations, etc., and keep it informal and keep it self-explanatory. You can yeah, you can do like the final touches and the finishing touches like towards the end of the class to like prevent wastage of time. And yeah, so print and stick, uh, print and stick what you can't draw or show. So for example, teachers whiteboards on Zooms, you can just take screenshots and print them out. Reference PPTs that ma'am shares with you, complex diagrams like the skeletal system, all of that, just print it and stick it. And this is a pic from my 11th grade notes. I had already done this rule of vectors, so I didn't waste time on it, and I just quickly stapled it out. And this is really efficient because you create like an entire resource book. It's a master guide to teaching yourself, and that's really important. So let's move on to the 14-day rule. So the first step of the 14-day rule is to spend a couple of minutes every night to go through your notebooks and revise what you've learned in the past 14 days. All right. So say today's Monday, then today before going to sleep, I just go through my notebook, and whatever I've learned from the past 14 days, I just like brush up through it, and I try to like relive the flow of the classroom that the teacher has already taught us. So, and that has to be captured. So if you capture this thing very well, the revision also becomes much better. And yeah, make sure you do this every day. It's very important. Make it a habit. I did this for my 8th grade, all right, and I got a 66 in math and physics. And not to encourage y'all, but I barely even opened my textbook. In fact, I left some of them in school during the exams. You can ask any of my classmates. And this actually shows you how effective this method is if it's done right. Moving on to posters. So I used to try and identify the critical information which was extremely important, and then I made posters on them, like digital and handmade both. And what I did was I started sticking them on my wall as learning lampposts. So the idea behind learning lampposts is that the atmosphere of your room builds up. So it's like a nice and learning atmosphere. Then every day, whenever you just look at him, you recollect the entire concept or idea. So it's a revision happening as a process. It's happening every day. It's happening over a period of time, and that's really, really important. And when I make them, another revision happens because I'm indirectly teaching my future self. So yeah, so there's a lot of revision that happens. And yeah, so the posters are in my own language and I easily understand and relate to them. So this was essentially one of the very few ways I revise. I actually took this idea as my CAS and Genius Hour initiative. It's called Crackbox. We are basically developing a learning platform where people can share their notes, posters, and other materials. It is filled with some of the most amazing and gorgeous posters that you've ever seen. And you can download and stick them onto your wall or your notebook. And if you want to know more, you can follow us on Instagram at Crackbox Official, where we're giving away like daily tips and tricks on studying better. And our platform is scheduled to launch on 2nd October. Well, I could speak a lot about it, but I'm not going to speak about it because since we are running due to time constraints. And yeah, thank you guys. That's it. Best of luck cooking your burger. And for now, back to you, Vritti.
So now we all know that everyone has their own note-taking style, and we can always have an exchange of ideas and styles and make use of all of our resources to make precise notes and not paper planes. Thank you, Trishul. Here's another experience we shared in our IGCSE year. We'd never be serious about our exams. Even when our mock exams for the boards were going on, we rushed to the basketball court after every exam and winded up just 10 minutes before the next exam. Our teachers had to chase us off the court. We aren't trying to imply that we were reckless and carefree, and you should be too. We're trying to suggest how advanced exam preparation is key. Aradhya Rohatgi will be shedding some more light on the exam preparation aspect of our GCSE journey to share with you what we learned about revising and preparing well in advance for the exam.
Top of the evening to one and all present here. I am Aradhya Rohatgi, and I would like to try to not repeat what you all must have been hearing or will hear a lot from friends, families, and seniors like myself about the IGCSE exams later. The exams, as anticipated as they are very crucial as grade 10 board exams. It's undeniable and it's true. However, getting these considerable grades for colleges is not smooth sailing. But with 2 years in hand, you can easily relax your study schedule for a daily or at the most a weekly basis so that the entire syllabus doesn't hit you all at once 3-4 months before the exams. So that is where I come in today. Exam preparation is one of the key aspects of IGCSE which should not be glossed over. If done right, it really helps in securing the precious straight A's, which is not that hard to achieve as you might think. I somehow obtained 8 straight A's out of my 8 subjects, 4 A's and 4 A's.
But okay.
And I found it miraculously impossible to be true on the day of reckoning. But you should not have to. And I expect you to attain even better than I did. It's very much possible. As with any exam, I know for a fact I could have scored more. And regret is the only thing you get after slacking off and procrastinating. Granted, the study experience has been and will be very different, difficult, and unexpected for all of you, since you're studying online for an exam of this importance. But once you received your report card, this will be absolutely worth all the time and effort you put in. So the more you invest in it, the more you will get back on the card. Exam preparation, for starters, begins in class, not a couple of months before the exams. So it's necessary to keep an ear out and listen to what is being taught in class. Pay utmost attention and try not to procrastinate to the best of your ability. Time management while studying and revising is what makes or breaks the exam day, as it defines the amount of study information you'll be taking with you in your head inside the exam hall. A study schedule, if it works for you, is a great time allocator. Don't go with the flow and study or revise only when a formative or a summative or the final exam comes up. The flow will be limited at the start of the year. So it will be easy to prepare immediately before a test, but when the flow overflows toward the end, which it definitely will, you will not be able to cope, trust me. Exquisite, vividly illustrated and decorated notes, or a plain old paragraph to paragraph style essay with bullet points and all that lies in between are all countless ways to maintain your notes, and you choose what style will help you to understand the concepts better. And yes, past papers are the holy grail of IGCSE. They're just unavoidable, but they're undoubtedly the best confidence giver if you practice enough through them. In the few months preceding the finals, around when your mocks begin, is the time to stop studying and start revising. The earlier you're revising, the better you can concentrate and the greater you can achieve. Like the study schedule mentioned earlier, a revision schedule can work in this time period. Don't squeeze in too much. Study revision and pass papers on the daily. Anything forced is nothing learned, and it will just exhaust you. But do gradually increase the amount you revise and solve papers as the exams approach nearer and nearer. Right before the judgment days, the days of the exams, keep an open mind and stay composed within your element. Panicking does not help, and it just strays you away from the potential time you can take advantage of. Keep all your stationery materials ready, have spares just in case. It is imperative that you don't lose track of time. Every single minute is important in the exams. So there's little to no amount of time to really sit back and think of what to write. So naturally, your studying needs to be that good. One thing my mother advised me to do was use a minute a mark strategy for time management. Simply put, the number of marks given to a question is the number of minutes you should stay on it. Kanish, could you move to the next slide? Thank you. It's just a technique. I used it when it could have been used. The main objective is to finish all papers with a fair amount of time to recheck later. All of you will excel. There's no doubt present in my mind about it. Remember, it all definitively comes down to your own learning style and capability. It's not necessary that you will find what I said 100% helpful for yourself, as we are different people with different learning styles we are comfortable with. But any help is some help. So don't be overwhelmed. There's no reason to be overwhelmed. If I'm being honest, I did not give these exams to the best I could have. Untapped potential, time and effort drained away, wasted. Barely anyone I knew last year. Only 2 or 3 people had given these exams, so getting experience tips was tricky, at least for me personally. You may or may not know more people than I did who have studied IGCSE, but all of you, at the very least, no one can approach 14 people who have sat the exams. You have us, you have MenteeMeet. It was a great time sharing my ordeal over the last 2 years with you. Thank you for lending your time and years. Back to you, Vritti.
It's never all work and no play. Now we know that preparing well in advance is key to be able to give equal attention to other aspects of your life. Thank you, Aradhya. Yet another story to share. We have excitedly participated in every possible event that came up in school, be it inter-house competitions, sports training, and state matches, or other inter-school events. And that's something our batch is very proud of, because it is these events that truly led to creating the most memories. Mehak Mehta will be highlighting the absolute necessity of extracurricular activities and how they played a huge role in our IGCSE journey.
Hi everyone, good evening. As a teenager, I can confidently say that we are often making the choice between extracurriculars and studies, scoring well and a holistic development. Well, here's the catch. You do not need to give up all your extracurriculars after entering the 10th grade. With events like MSSA, debates, or MUNs, the process of either listening to your heart or to your head becomes more and more difficult. So today, I would like to give you guys a few tips to make this choice a lot less stressful. A. Statistics and common sense both suggest that it is impossible to constantly study without resting for a while or doing some recreational activity. Hence, a good blood rush and competitive spirit is mandatory to refresh your mind. B. Events like MUN, conferences that promote public speaking are extremely crucial for profile building. In a while, most of you will be applying to other schools or even for university after a few years. Speaking from personal experience, I would say that in these cases, public speaking plays a major role in the admission process. C. Prioritize. You'll be dedicating around 60 to 80% of your time to textbooks. Hence, make sure you select your extracurriculars wisely. From personal experience, I would say that choose 1 or max 2 sports to focus on where teams are concerned and 2 major events for your profile. This will make your life easier and less hectic. Since sports and public speaking will be playing a major part, I would like to add one more thing. Your physical activities are going to be taken care of by the school. On the other hand, you yourself will have to enhance your profile. Therefore, 3 students from 11th grade have created a platform called Find Your Voice. Kanish Shah, Aradhya Rohatgi and I will help you guys train for events like MUN, writing a good speech, or just conducting yourselves well for an interview. You'll be updated with upcoming events and get tons of opportunities too. And in this way, you can go on to score that A star without physically and mentally draining yourself. In the end, just wishing you all good luck. Thank you.
Build your portfolio while enjoying the process. Now we know extracurriculars play a huge role in making us what we are today and lead to a holistic development. So make memories, build yourselves, learn something new, and give back to society through extracurriculars. Thank you, Mehak. So how did we really feel during our course? Were we stressed? Were we anxious? Were we carefree? Well, honestly, we felt a mixture of all of these emotions. Some of them we were proud of, and some of them we regretted. We learned a lot about how different emotions affected our actions and how understanding and sharing them was extremely important. Parina Tamhankar will be sharing with you what we've learned about the importance of our mental health and emotions through this course.
Good evening. I'm just going to throw away everything we were raised to believe and say grades are not everything. While everything feels like a huge deal when you're actually going through it, take into consideration checkpoint in 8th grade. There was a lot of pressure before you had to give the exam, but now it's just an experience you're either proud of or have learned from. Stress is inevitable and uncontrollable, but the way you handle it isn't. So one way of coping with it is by venting to your friends or family about it. Your friends are going through the same problems you're going through, and your family can always make time to listen. So if neither works out, I'm sure any of us seniors can help. Don't forget to take a break. Overworking yourself helps nobody. Going to school tired and disoriented is essentially not going at all. So the way that you miss school when you catch a cold, do the same for when you need a break regarding your mental health, as long as you make sure to cover up on all of the studies you've missed. Sleep also plays a large role in taking care of yourself. Thinking that the longer you study is equal to the amount of time you stay up and equal to the amount you learn is a huge misconception. In reality, the longer you stay awake, the more sleep deprived you are, and the lesser your ability to retain information remains. So if you're too tired to study, small power naps are key. You don't need to give up activities you enjoy just for the sake of studying. You're not a machine and you can't function like that. You always need to keep that in mind. So in my personal experience, by the time your boards are near, the teachers make sure that you're prepared for it at least a month in advance. So as long as you listen to them, do the necessary prep, there's actually no worry about it. And most importantly, grades don't define you. You're much more than a percentage or a letter grade. If you actually enjoy the subject, with practice, there's nothing stopping you. Personally, I didn't even come close to C for art in my boards. And I can openly say that because I know that grades don't define me. That doesn't mean that I'm bad at art or I'm supposed to stop art entirely. All it means is that there's room for improvement. Sure, it's a bummer and it's understandable if you need some time away from the subject. So this year, I continued with art as a part of my service initiative in CAS. I came up with a page just for comics that break social norms and most importantly, remind you to take care of your mental health. The account is called The Woke Trash Can. Feel free to check it out on Instagram later. Thank you.
So now we know grades don't define us, but dealing with our emotions correctly will help us pave the path to the grades we wish to achieve. It's also imperative to share and understand what we're feeling to ensure a smoother journey. Thank you, Parina. We've shared knowledge, experiences, and stories, had an exchange of exciting ideas that we've learned from our IGCSE course, and conveyed guidance and suggestions for the youth by the youth. And now it's time to hear what our career counselor, Ms. Janvi, has to say on the importance of IGCSE preparation and outcomes on future decisions.
Thank you so much, Vritti, and I really appreciate all the students and their views and everything that they spoke about, right from what Parina had to say to what Mehak had to say. It's not only your academics, but yes, an overall profile that is extremely important. To begin with, the reason why your IGCSEs are extremely important is you're building up your foundation years in grades 9 and 10 to lead through your college applications in grade 11 and 12. At this point, it's important to understand that universities typically like to see you as a whole, and it's not only dependent on your grades. So please focus on each of them. It's extremely important to maintain balance within your academics and extracurricular activities and give each of them equal importance. So please keep that in mind and focus on the way forward accordingly. I think, Vritti, this is an extremely interesting initiative to come up with, and peer mentoring, according to me, is very, very important. And I really appreciate that you're taking this effort to reach out to everyone as part of your peer mentoring project. And not only as a mentor, but I think as a mentee as well. It's really, really important to understand the learnings to say your interpersonal skills, your self-management, your communication, or just self-awareness that is extremely important that will put together this whole process. So thank you, Vritti, for having me just speak very briefly about all of this.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that enlightening perspective. Now we know that an extra effort while balancing recreation can really go a long way. Now it's time to address your concerns and use our past knowledge and experiences to answer your questions. If you wish to, you may always communicate with us through email and we will address your concerns there. Joshua and Zara will be leading the Q&A and will attempt to answer all your questions with the help of our classmates. Feel free to put them in the Q&A section.
Okay, so one of the first questions we have received is going with the speed of the school covering the curriculum okay? With regards to this question, I would like to answer that we have also asked our teachers this question. And the general opinion that the teachers have is that when they are tackling a topic during class, it is at a pace such that everyone will understand it equally. So while you may be able to understand something quicker than others, we recommend that you go at the same pace as the school. If you would like to move ahead, we would suggest practicing the same questions more or finding more challenging questions. As you know, what you do in class is a lot different from what you solve in your exams.
But also I would recommend, from experience, if you find that you have the time, read ahead, read the chapters that have yet to be covered. It's not a disadvantage, it will always help. Just to don't study it, just read it so you know what's happening, and if you have any doubts that you want to be cleared, it would be easier to understand. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like Zara mentioned, that don't go and study the chapters. Like, just go and look at them, and with a curiosity perspective, that you just want to know more. And yeah, that'll just help, and you don't really need to like study ahead of what the school's teaching you.
Now, even if you do read ahead, please don't go into your classes assuming that you already know everything, because it's always better to hear it from a teacher herself. And if you study, then you stop paying attention in class and then you fall behind. We have another question.
In the
Would you-
online, so in the online module of learning, many questions are left unanswered. How do you deal with this anxiety? So, speaking from our current experience, us 11th graders right now, we know how it is, because it can get confusing, it can get overwhelming. You're not in school, so you can't go to the teachers personally and get doubts answered. So recently, I think us students have started to do these study group things. So all of us get together and solve our homework. So that's a great way of like solving doubts. talk to your peers, find out what their answers are, share notes. Sharing notes, I find, is a huge help, because especially in subjects like, say, science, there's a lot of matter to be covered, especially if you've taken individual sciences in the 9th and 10th. There's a lot of matter to be covered, so something that you might have not covered, someone else might have. So share notes or talk to your peers. And during school hours, if you still find that you need to talk to a teacher, send them an email. I find that they always reply. If they don't, talk to them the next day during Zoom and schedule an extra class maybe.
So our next question is, how much time should you study in a day to get good grades? So, there's no such thing that I could suggest to you that, you have to study so many hours a day. Like Aradhya said, you should study uh, without forcing yourself. If you feel like studying, uh, sorry, let me re-articulate that. You should put some diversity into your studies. Don't start your day saying, okay, I have to study math today. I'll finish so many exercises. How about you go about saying, I'll do 3 exercises of math today and maybe some physics later. And if I'm feeling bored, I'll do the subject that I really like last so that I feel refreshed. And if you're really feeling bored, it's best that you go out and, play some sport. I mean, you can't go out, but play some sports or play some games and refresh yourself. Even eat a lot if you want to.
So, okay, Mehak wants to
Yeah.
add something to Joshua's answers. Yes, Mehak?
So I would just like to say that when studying, it's not the quantity, but the quality that matters. And since I have spoken about extracurriculars, so this is what I used to personally do. I think Trishit and Aradhya already mentioned a particular time limit that you study for. So after you do this, I would advise you not to spend that break time on your phone or on technology. Instead, what I used to do is just listen to some music or just dance around for a while. So that would refresh my mind, and hence I could focus more, which would enhance the quality with which I study.
And one more thing to add to it, don't take like studying as, in terms of like time. So don't like relate both of them. If you like, for some people, if they wake up in the morning, like early in the morning, and they study for 1 hour, their effectiveness of studying is much greater than studying for 3 hours even in the evening. So you need to like find the right time for you, and you need to like work on the quality of studying that you're giving in, and less of the time that you put in study. So work on the effectiveness of how you study, because that's going to matter.
Yeah, and also figure out times that work for you. Like Trishit said, like, usually I am a night person. I can stay up late in the night. I can't get up in the mornings. But I find that I can't study in the night because obviously I'm tired. And my mind sets into like sleep mode. I can't study. I can't retain anything. If you don't feel like studying, and if you feel like you can't, and if you just don't want to, don't force yourself, because with studying you have to remember what you study, and if you're not in the mood to, you're not going to remember anything, and it's all just going to go over your head, and it's not going to make any difference even if you spend like hours on it.
Yeah, and just one more pro tip is that if you're in a good mood and you think that you can concentrate a lot on studying, then like start with the subjects that you actually find challenging. Don't start with the subjects that you like.
So our next question is how to defeat procrastination. Personally, I'm not that big of a procrastinator. I do my work only because I think of it like, if I do my work now, then I won't have to spend time on it later. I'll have free time later. I'll allot times for myself. Like, okay, if we have a week for an assignment, then I will decide every day I'll spend an hour on it, and so I don't procrastinate, and I can have free time later and leisure time where I won't have to spend an all-nighter on just finishing assignment.
And our next question is, where can we find past papers? With the IGCSEs, it's really easy to find past papers online if you just go. If I remember correctly, we had to do subject code, which you can find either on your IGCSE website or from your teacher, followed by the series, which is, if it is Feb March, you put F/M, or if it's May June, M/J, and then so on and so forth, along with the year, which would be 2020, 2019, and so on. And you will get loads of papers from various sites, such as there was Papa Cambridge,
Past papers
Past
dot
Papers,
co.
yeah. Then there was something called Extreme Papers also, which we do not use as much, but I found it like after the IGCSEs. We will send you a
Uh,
list of resources later also.
and along with past papers, I don't know if this was mentioned, solve sample papers. Whatever is posted by Cambridge, it's usually on their site. Solve those papers so you know the format of your final paper, because sometimes it can differ each year.
And I would just like to add something to what Zara said about procrastination. Personally, I was a very big procrastinator. I delayed all my work to the last minute, and seeing as what I fared in IGCSE, I understood that I was completely wrong, and my way of going about things was not right. So then in the IB, what I've started to do is create a proper study timetable and stick to it, where I'm not losing track of time, and also I'm finishing what needs to be done as soon as I get the work. And the main thing is, if any assignments are allotted to you, time management is extremely key if you are going forward into the IB and in the IGCSE as well. So make a study timetable and allot time for homework, for studying, and for revising, so that you don't mix up the three. And also, if you plan it out, stick to it. That really helps a lot.
Yeah, and just to add to what Kanush said, that even I'm a very big procrastinator. In fact, this PP that y'all saw was just made yesterday night. Uh, and what I'm trying to say is that if you actually work on something like a to-do list, I started that right now, and it's really proven effective. Just like try to organize all your work in terms of deadlines. So like have like 3 columns on your to-do list. Like one is the deadline, which is tomorrow, then there is next week, okay, and then the third one is whenever I'm free, okay, and then like organize your work as post-its and then just like stick them up over there. It'll really help.
So our next question is, how much do all of you follow a healthy, nutritious plan while studying? Honestly,
With the IB, there's no healthy.
I would suggest actually when you're studying, okay, personally, I start getting a headache immediately. But so you don't have to keep getting up, with the excuse, okay, I'm hungry, I want something to snack on. Always keep something by you. So usually I'll keep like an apple or an orange. Keep, I would say keep fruits or vegetables or something that doesn't, not something like rice and dal where you actually have to go in for an entire bite or morsel. But that also helps because you're not consuming junk as much, but it's a good snack and it'll keep you refreshed, so you don't have to keep getting up with the excuse that I'm hungry.
and all and also what Zara said, like having sugary stuff actually helps, but don't go for sweets and chocolates all the time. Fruits is a very great alternative, and for example, if you like grapes, uh, eating grapes is very fun. Like the way of eating it, like you can toss it up, make a whatever trick shot or whatever, but at the same time, the idea of snacking during studying is also good because your brain keeps working that way. You don't get bored, and fruits is the best alternative to any other junk snack that you can find.
And
Stay away from stuff that is too sugary because it slows you down. You start feeling all
but at,
lethargic then. You
but
feel like
at the same time, it doesn't mean that we don't eat sugary stuff. I'm pretty sure all of us eat some sort of calorie filled meal every day. But as far as like nutritional, like really high in nutrition, we eat healthy food, like we eat our vegetables and fruits, but also we do also indulge in chocolates or in sweets, but not overly indulge in it, because that will take a toll on your health for the worse.
I would just like to add one thing. While studying, this is what I used to do, like almonds. I have really popped in a lot of almonds and nuts because that helped me concentrate. And I used to sit with a hot beverage, which would refresh my mind. But at the same time, y'all are going through IGCSE, which means you guys will have stress. So don't let go of that comfort food, because that is what will keep you relaxed and will make you happy. So while studying, don't focus on the comfort food, but say for lunch or dinner, then keep that as an option. So don't restrict yourselves too much.
Okay, this just one small thing. I'm personally Gujarati, and if anybody else is Gujarati out there, they'll relate to like food very, very much. So if you actually start making it a habit to like eat during studying now, you will just end up like just eating more and studying less. So like just try to like make sure you avoid that, because then the food just keeps coming. I mean, your mom will start making dhoklas, then it'll come to like all sorts of food, but then just like try to like control yourself and prevent oily food, because then you have to go and wash your hands again and again.
In case your question meant like, working out a balance between studies and having fun, um, I mean, it's up to you. You know when you're not in the mood to study anymore, and don't push yourself. I mean, don't force yourself. There's a difference between pushing yourself and forcing yourself, right? Pushing yourself would be, I'm not so good at something and I need to get better at it. So I will understand this topic more. I'll solve more questions related to it. Whereas forcing yourself is like, uh, yeah. So Aradhya has something to say, which is, yeah,
It's not relevant. Yeah,
it's not
sorry.
relevant here. So yeah, that's about it. Forcing yourself is like trying to eat something you hate.
Okay. Our next question is, do past papers help in does past paper solving help? I think Janvi ma'am would like to take that question.
Uh, so yes, I think the one reason I thought it's important to answer, despite of all of y'all saying all of this, is it's just going to give you some practice. It's not going to be a formula for knowing it all, but I think it's a practice to just make sure you're within the time, you're able to solve as many questions, and it just get you some practice is my thought process. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, so past papers, personally, I've solved a lot of them, but I know some of the other students have solved like 10 times more than I have, because I wasn't that rigorous in terms of past paper
I
solving.
stand with Zara on this. I barely even like solved a lot of past papers. I must have solved like only like the past 2 years, and that also like with
Honestly, I think the person who solved the most past papers would be Mishti, because she didn't go for classes either. So she would just sit at home solving and giving to the teachers to correct, which
Yeah,
does
I
make a
think
big.
that's important. Like once, even if you do solve your past papers, we used to go through our answer schemes, but it's also important to understand like how exactly you're supposed to write an answer, which you can get best if you get feedback from your teacher. And it's not always possible for them to answer or like, correct all of your papers. So do go through your revisions, your mark schemes and all of that. And mark schemes do have like important points that they give, like bullet points, and they say like things you can avoid, things you shouldn't write. So all of this is very important, and it's already given in the mark scheme. So if you like
Especially
refer to
in
your
GP
mark
and
scheme,
Eco.
yeah, in GP, yes,
And
yeah.
even in English, always, I would suggest that you always give it to your English teacher, or even if you're giving it to your tuition teacher, I would suggest you give it to your school English teacher, at least some of the papers you solve towards the end, because they are more experienced in that sort of way, and they can tell you where you're going wrong, how you might better your language for the paper in specific.
Oh, okay, so one of the reasons that makes past papers like really, really useful is the fact that most of the learning that happens, it doesn't happen while solving the past paper. It happens when you self-correct your own papers, because you're actually looking at the mark scheme and you're looking at the paper, and then you see that, okay, I've gone wrong here. Okay. And then next time a similar question like that comes up, you know how to answer or approach the question like in a different way. So I think like try to correct most of your papers by yourself. And if you can sit with the teacher and correct them, that's like the best. And yeah, try to like break down the mark scheme, and like try to like analyze on what are they actually like wanting from the question. So
So our recommendation would be, yeah, Kanish, do you
Just a
want to?
tip for your past papers, do solve them. But for multiple choice, don't just stick it on the question paper, because a lot of time goes in filling those boxes. I would say print out those sheets, those marking sheets, and actually solve them that way, so you all can focus on your time management too.
In my personal experience, I'd like to add, for the IGCSEs at least, you don't really need tuitions. Like if you can manage your time, unless you're really struggling at a subject. Like I used to struggle with Spanish a lot, and those were the only tuitions I went for, even though they were just during the holidays. But if you manage your time well and you have a healthy plan in place, you don't really have to go for tuitions, because they end up being a waste of time, because you come home from school, then you go, you have the daily grind of tuitions, then you have to complete school homework, tuition homework, then that other homework which you forgot. And there's all sorts of these things where you just end up running from one place to another, and you don't enjoy your school life or your normal life.
I absolutely agree with Joshua. And tuitions actually kills all your extracurricular time, because you're just like so busy with it. And tuitions is actually not required, because it's basically a repetition of what you do in class. And because you go to the tuitions, what happens is that you stop paying attention in class. All right. And then it's like then it doesn't make sense, like going to class or going to tuitions. Like just try, if you can, stick with only the school, and use tuitions for only subjects that you actually really find challenging. And yeah, again, if your note taking is effective, you can, like I said, you can relive the way the teachers taught you in class, right? And that actually makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Basically, like
So
self tuition.
on that note, uh, we are not like saying don't go to tuitions. Like what Trishit said, if you're struggling in a subject, like I didn't go for any classes other than math in specific, because I did struggle with it. But I would know that parents, yes, they do find it, reassuring to have their child go for classes because they think they might score better. But honestly, like they said, tuitions takes away a lot of your free time. And free time, as much as it's looked down upon, it is important when in regards to mental health, especially because studying the entire time can really like just make you tired, and it's exhausting. So if you feel like you absolutely can't study by yourself and you need someone supervising you, then you can go for classes. That's okay, but don't force yourself to go if you think that it's not necessary.
And just to add on what Zara said, personally, what I did was so in the ninth grade, I used to take tuitions for Spanish, and so what I thought was that let me conduct an experiment, and I stopped going to tuitions for one semester just to see whether I'm performing worse studying by myself or better. And honestly, after doing that, I found out that I'm actually getting more time to do other stuff, and I also didn't fall in my Spanish grades like I thought I would. So then I made a decision not to take the extra class for Spanish, and studying by myself for the 10th grade, it felt a little bit more daunting seeing that I didn't have any extra help. But when I approached the teachers in school more, I again felt reassured. So technically, what you feel while going to tuitions is you're getting more, more time to study the subject, whereas you're only repeating stuff. So when you have free classes, especially in the 10th grade, don't waste time by not doing anything, but rather if you have any doubts in particular subjects or in certain questions, go to the teachers if they're free and ask them. The more you ask your school teachers, the more your rapport with them increases, and also the fact that their knowledge to you increases is very helpful, according to me at least. and hence that's why I didn't go back to the Spanish tuitions and still had more time to finish what other work I could have.
Yeah. So our next question is, should we, so we should manage our time well and study at the right times, then we will be fine. Uh, yeah, Trishit wanted to take that.
I had a very like a good time management in 8th grade, and I had like really good results because of that, and I also like barely the textbooks in 8th grade because of that. But what I'm saying is that in 9th and 10th majorly, I did not pay a lot of concentration to time management. I started getting distracted. I mean, I was playing PS for half the day and all of that stuff, and that really took a toll, and I had to pay the price for it by like the last 1 month studying like vigorously. So like have a good time management schedule. Like to-do lists are one of the best ways to do it, and yeah, like create a timetable like Aradhya said.
And adding to what Trisha just said, to-do lists are the best thing. In my case, actually, what I felt by creating a to-do list earlier in the 10th grade, I used to make it every time. I used to like take a dedicated 15-20 minutes to make it. But when it came to following it, it just didn't help. So then what I did was I literally created alarms on my phone, and people, or at least someone, telling me, go do this, you've done it, and you better finish it before the time limit ends. So then that also helped me. So if you create the to-do list, also add alarms on your phone, because we all know we use our phones many a times, and add alarms on your phone so you all know mentally as well you have to go back from taking a break and start studying again. So that really helps.
Yeah. So our next question is, what was your approach towards sport during your IGCSE year? I believe Mehak wants to answer this one.
Yeah, so I think I already mentioned a bit about this in my speech, but I would like to just say again that learn to prioritize first. Like, I'm not saying let go of all your sports, that is not what you should do. Do play some sports and do go for some events like MSSA or DSO, whatever comes up, but do prioritize. So personally, as I said, I went for two sports that meant the most to me, and I played those events. And I didn't go for each and every sport like you could, but then that would become really hectic. And I would just say that do not completely sacrifice your studies or your sports. Like, you need to create a balance somewhere. So if you just go on playing all the sports, then the studying part will become really hectic. Like, it is manageable, but it's going to be really difficult. Whereas if you just go for, say, one or two sports and you do continue playing those, even like, say, 3 to 4 months before your exams, it's completely okay, but you will have to work on the time management. But I repeat again and again that do not completely shut down your sports, because that recreation is important. And as Parina also spoke about the mental health aspect, so it will be important.
So on that note, when Mehak said don't sacrifice your studies, you should prioritize, don't sacrifice your sports either, like she said, because see, your sports is something that means a lot to you. It means a lot to all of us DBIS students. Just because you're not playing sports does not mean that your grades will get better. Sometimes having that uh, exhaustion of just fun and something that means so much to you will help your grades get better, because you have, all you've like exerted all that energy that you have in yourself. That's why I think even when we had school during recess breaks, you would always find us out down playing, because then we wouldn't have that much of an urge to ask for free periods every other day. So yeah, I think Trishit wants to add something.
Like attending an exam, or like studying or learning or something like that, it's more of a mental game. So even if you follow all of these tips and tricks that we told you, unless you have like complete dedication in your mind, etc., and you're like mentally open to learning, it won't be effective. And the only way to keep your mind in like a very good position is to stay physically active. So if you don't go to any sports, that might become a problem. So like try to go to as many sports as you can, but you know, like in the other time that you're not like playing sports, you're not like doing something else like that, or also doing something productive, make sure you're studying. So you need to balance the two, like I said. And me personally, I would have gone to every sport that I got an opportunity to go in. And yeah, so just saying, you know, I could do that because the other time that I used to get apart from sports, I used to spend it like religiously in studying. So that's the only way, you know, my mom used to allow me to do all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So on that note, adding to what everybody said, yeah.
I'd like to add one last thing. We did not receive any questions about this, but I'd like to say that please take your prelims very seriously because those really matter. And you know, if you fall into a situation like we May students did for Spanish, where we have our predicted grades and all going, you know, ultimately it's not a person seeing your grades on that end, it's a computer. So if a computer sees your prelim grades as being, you know, great, even that can be like a lot better. Okay, and you also get a lot of practice for the boards itself because
And adding to what Joshua is saying, take your prelims seriously because if you all are aiming to go to IB schools, like schools that start admissions in September or October, they count predicted grades as your key basis on entry, and they again reassure them by checking your board marks. So it's not like you did very well in your prelims. Now I can let go on my board marks ka time. For example, schools like Aditya Birla, Dhirubhai Ambani, they all check your predicted grades first. And same for even our school. Like if you're performing well in your mocks, you're performing well in your prelims, that gives a very good boost to your self inner confidence and also a good application otherwise. And as well, don't drop on your board marks according if you've done very well in your prelims.
Yeah, and just one more thing is that you know, if you do well in your prelims, the stress that you have for your last minute exams is going to be much less. So you
And
know,
this is all from the basis of experience because we didn't take our prelims seriously.
yeah,
Honestly,
exactly.
telling you all, we
Just do well in your prelims, and you'll be like you know, like very
yeah.
happy and sorted.
but
And
also don't burn yourself out and study only for the prelims and
because
then forget about the
yeah,
board.
so I think most of us went full on study mode for the first prelims. Second prelims, we went like a little bit less. And then for the boards, ultimately, we were like, okay, we've studied it like thrice now. We've revised it. Why do we have to do it again?
Yep.
Don't make sure that you build up your revision and don't lessen it. So I think
Don't get dejected too. So
that's all the time we have for today. Back to you, Mishti.
Yeah, so on that note, what I'd like to say is, apart from what everybody said, it's everything, all of it is what is very important. But personally, for me, what helped me get the marks that I did was really just set goals for yourself. And from the start, keep telling yourself that I'm going to achieve this and this is what I really want. And when you really want something and you really believe that you can do it, I believe you can actually achieve it. And one more thing that I did was I kept like posters right in front of my study table, posters that said, I can do this, the body believes what the mind achieves, and things like that, motivational quotes that really help you. That was one thing that really helped me get the marks that I achieved. And yeah, let's just conclude the event. So MenteeMeet is where you can have all your academic and personal issues addressed by someone who's your age to aid you with your personal experiences and suggestions. So while we're working on setting up our digital platform, we will frequently be hosting webinars that cater to different audiences. Don't worry, we'll keep you informed. Life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you. So let the people who've been there and done that guide you through your choices. Feel free to connect with us through email whenever you wish to, and we will address any concerns that you have there. I hope this session was an insightful one. And this event would not have come together if it weren't for the love, support, and assistance of Meena ma'am, Anita ma'am, Aarti ma'am, Rima ma'am, Janvi ma'am, Remy sir, and Arul sir. Thank you to all our juniors and their parents for connecting and bonding with us through MenteeMeet. And last but not least, a big thank you to Aratya, Mehak, Joshua, Kanish, Farina, Trishit, and Zara for contributing and covering different aspects of the webinar, and all of my teammates from grade 11 for being the wonderful team that they are. So this is not the end, but the beginning to the collaboration of the MenteeMeet community. Thank you and have a great day.
Mhm.
Thank you, Arun sir. We could end the webinar.
Okay.
Thank you everyone. Good job.
Thank you,
Bye.
Everyone.
Y'all did great, guys.